We continue looking at female-male comparisons by digging into the data. So how have this idea of male and female as opposites been used to define truth of differences? Chinese proverb has long said women have long hair and short intelligence, and Aristotle's belief was that male and female were relative opposites. And in the world of science, heckling looks a little different. You may ask, why has there been so much emphasis placed on differences between males and females? Think about how it holds on to the status quo and reinforces the social constructs that society makes about sex and gender. Honestly, differences are much easier to publish. They're much more titillating, they're much more interesting, and they sell a whole lot more news. And in and amongst the differences, and those that are truly there, traditionally differences between men and women have been implied as hierarchy. As we see in the gender similarities hypothesis, males and females are similar on most psychological barriers. And it's important to remember that males and females are over 99% similar biologically. And really the main differences come from those things attached to our reproductive cycles, the degree of hormones that we have in our body, and our reproductive organs. So it makes perfect sense that males and females are similar on most psychological variables as well. We can prove just about anything in research. I could conduct a study that proves that all humans are actually cats. That may be bad science. And so how do we create good science? Scratching your brains about research methods, you're going to remember topics like how research is done and interpreted, what questions we ask, how do we ask them, how do we design, what are our sample sets, what are group comparisons. When looking at group comparisons, are we looking at it through an androcentric lens, that male is normative and right? And then what do we do with our interpretations? What does difference really mean? And even when it's statistically significant, is it actually significant in the world? We will explore just a few of the biases, beginning with the alpha versus the beta biases. In an alpha bias, the researcher tends to exaggerate the differences, while in a beta bias, the researcher minimizes those differences. Feminist psychologists look at issues that influence research. Two main areas that they look at are the researcher-participant relationships and this idea of being objective. The bias of context stripping is studying and discussing the thoughts, feelings, and behavior of a group or individuals as if they were separate somehow from their context. With reflexivity, researchers should be aware of and reflect upon the ways their identities influence their work and their work influences their identities. Logical positivism says that reality is independent of the knower and can be discerned objectively under the proper conditions. In social constructionism, researchers do not discover independently existing facts through objective observation. Rather, they construct knowledge that is influenced by their own social context. And finally, essentialism. Gender and other qualities such as sexual orientation are qualities that lie within the individual and are actually part of that person, are essential to their being and our understanding of them. Once we have concluded our research and begin to interpret the data, we need to be cautious in what we look at. What is a difference? And what is a difference when we look at males and females? Understanding that male has been normative for thousands of years, and we consider that normative to be normal, what does it mean to look at the mean? And where are differences truly differences?